Live right here, Pro Football Today. Kevin Walsh, Donnie Rightside, and Joe Lisi. And we get the chance to just, we're going to talk Giants-Falcons, but we need to talk what surrounds Giants-Falcons first, and that is the benching of Kirk Cousins, who has almost assuredly played his final snap in a Falcons uniform. Yeah, we'll get to where Kirk's going to go. We can get to what you think Penix will do today. Just this decision, Donnie, for the Atlanta Falcons to bench Kirk and go to Penix, and what you think that really means and represents.
Good for the organization, a healthy organization. Even though it was widely around where it said, okay, who's going to be your head coach? Oh, it's Raheem Morris. Yeah, I didn't like that decision at all. But also, you can double down from a general manager point of view and a coach's point of view. Nope, Kirk's our guy, 4 years here. Why would you even ask me that question? On to next week. When we sat on this panel and we watched that game live, and it was clear, this is not your quarterback of the future, and you think you have your quarterback of the future on the roster, a layup spot that you can put Michael Penix into today, which regardless of what he does, they'll probably still win the football game to try to get him on a level to be a little bit more confident when they go up against the Washington Commanders. So without starting like where Kirk Cousins is going, I absolutely applaud this decision for the Falcons because why, Joe? It's the right decision, and healthy organizations are supposed to make the right decision, not the financial decision.
Think about that Monday night game, right? They had lost 4 straight entering that matchup. They had lost their division lead to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and a more consistent offense with Baker Mayfield. They had no offensive identity, and their quarterback, their star quarterback, supposedly, Kev, wasn't even throwing touchdowns. He was throwing interceptions, and that's another reason why I think they went to Michael Penix. The one thing you can't do if you're making a playoff run is throw interceptions and turn the football over. He looked like a deer in the headlights. He looked like a rookie quarterback on that Monday night against a beaten-down Las Vegas secondary and team. He only threw for 130 yards in that game, and they barely won it. So I think when you look big picture and you say, where's this team projected? Where are they going? Your best option is to put Michael Penix in today, obviously get his feet wet. Hopefully you can grind it out with the rushing attack and of Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson and get him ready for weeks number 17 and 18 respectively. And maybe you limp into the playoffs in that factor, and maybe he can make some noise, but get him ready for 2025.
I think for me, why this was ultimately a stunning move is had Atlanta stuck with Kirk Cousins, maybe we'd be like, man, this is ridiculous. You're holding on to a sinking ship. It would have been totally unsurprised. Like, they won the game. They're huge favorites today. If they win this game with Kirk, they'd be over 500. The division would not be out of bounds, right? Even if the Bucs are in a good spot, which the Bucs are, the division's not out of reach. If you're the Falcons, you could finish this season 9-8. Year one, we're going to go into the offseason, and we're going to figure it out. By making this move, they ended Kirk's career in Atlanta. And that's where now I go back to the draft. Did they pay him before they could got medicals, and then realized that they made a huge mistake?
Don't you remember there was a lot of talk out there, and I think they got penalized, right, where the NFL is like, you guys were already in cahoots before free agency began, which means you're not supposed to have all the information that you need to bring a guy in and give that, authentic look from a doctor's perspective. But no, this, again, getting back to the point where if you are looking at the Falcons and what they're going to do in the future, I like the move because we all panned them widely on draft night, and rightfully so. They didn't make the move either way. So now you're looking forward and saying, you know what, that is a huge pay cut that we're going to have to take here as a team based on the salary cap, and we're willing to do that because of how much we missed. I actually like that because it's so easy for an owner to go, I paid that money, you're going to play him, and you're a general manager, I'm going to fire you regardless of it. But at least they're having those internal talks going, what's the health of the team going to be like? What's the move that can actually spark us to win a division? This is the move, Joe.
It is. And think about a similar situation or a quarterback that a team has held on to. Deshaun Watson, right? Look at that situation. They're handcuffed with that, and they failed. They can't do anything. Right? So I think when Atlanta looked at the writing on the wall and they saw where their team was, they lost 4 straight. It would be one thing, Kev, if they beat Las Vegas last week as a 5.5-point favorite and they put up 35 points Kirk throws for 4 touchdowns.
That was supposed to happen.
That was supposed to happen. But he throws for less than 150.
You bring up Watson's handcuffed Cleveland for 3 years.
Yeah.
Kirk didn't make it a full season. So my point is, the willingness to move on from Kirk when usually a team's going to see out the season, right? Ultimately, I don't think we think Atlanta's making the playoffs, right? If you look at the setup, the Bucs schedule. So we talk about health of the franchise. Atlanta might have actually been better playing Kirk, not doing this, and trading him, if you got to attach a pick, and avoiding maybe some of the dead money that ultimately they're going to get stuck with. So that is why, to me, it almost is as if Atlanta found more things out, which is why Penix is on the team, which is why they've okay, we're done with Kirk sooner than everybody would have expected. But to then stick on Kirk Cousins, because we'll break down Falcons, Giants, and that's where we can get into Penix. Kirk is going to be released, right? We've seen the situations before. When Schefter starts tweeting out, hey, here are the release dates. The guy's getting released, okay? You and I talked on Thursday, and you said, Kirk's interesting if I can get him as a free agent, which now you can.
Yep.
Winners and losers, the biggest loser of this whole news is by far, to me, Brock Purdy. If you are the Niners now, you probably can get Kirk Cousins for a hilariously cheap deal, especially considering Schefter keeps telling people, yeah, maybe Kirk gets the Russ contract, which is a hilariously cheap deal. We know Shanahan and Kirk have history, and you can tell me that Brock is way better than Cousins. I'm not debating that. I'm debating Kirk Cousins potentially being worth Lisi $58 million less per year than Brock Purdy.
That is the biggest question, right? And we talked about it on that Thursday night when they put up 6 points against the L.A. Rams. We said that Brock Purdy, based off that performance and where he was headed with the inconsistency, was not worth the money. He's certainly not worth more than Pat Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts. He's not. He hasn't done anything. He's taken his team to a Super Bowl, couldn't pull it out, and we saw now with limited weapons, with McCaffrey out of that lineup, with Debo not stepping up and making plays, that Brock Purdy at times is a marginal quarterback. And that's the decision that teams have to make. Are you going to pay this guy $65 million for the next 3, 4, 5 seasons, or are you going to get a veteran quarterback on the cheap, a la Baker Mayfield a few years ago for $30 million, or Sam Darnold this year? Develop him in your scheme to where you could still win football games, Donnie.
Yeah, when you're looking at the Atlanta Falcons, what they were trying to do was something similar to Green Bay. But at the same time, it's like, hey, Aaron Rodgers or let's just say Brett Favre have like 2 years left. We're going to groom this kid. He's going to be there. Like, you signed a 4-year deal with Kirk Cousins for massive money. It wasn't a quick out, let's just see what we have. But also, from a 49ers perspective, here's the tough part. You love to see it on paper. Kirk Cousins, $850,000 a year as a quarterback, similar to what they're paying Brock Purdy at this point right now. But he must be so medically far gone because the team sees him day in and day out. The reads aren't there. The tape from practices. That's why this move was made because, as Kevin points out rightfully so, what team would actually be like, oh, we have a high-priced quarterback. We won. It wasn't his fault. 15-9, Giants, easy victory. Let's see if he can get it together, and maybe the final 2 games of the season he's there. They're seeing something right now that's like, this is alarming, and we can't have him.
Do you remember when there were only 2 people, maybe we were third, but I actually, in the world, when Penix played 1 preseason game, and you and I were like, that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And everyone else is like, yeah, they just like Penix. They never do anything
They've seen
with
enough,
Kirk.
and it wasn't even like he did anything in the preseason as is. It's like, oh, we saw enough at this point.
He completed a 40-yard pass. They were like, shut him down.
I think the bigger question, because Rodgers and him had the same surgery. So what is it when he's far gone? No, what I'm saying, though, is it an arm situation? Is it that he has PTSD? He can't handle a rush?
And it's not like he doesn't have weapons. That's a good offensive line, a dominant ground game, wide receivers and tight ends, and he has 18 touchdowns and 16 picks.
His best game came on that Thursday night against Tampa. 500.
That's the Eagles. How the hell did he beat the Eagles?
Because Sirianni didn't know what he knows now. It's all right, though. We'll talk Giants, Falcons next.
and you're not riding with Josh Allen, where have you gone? Don't tell me it's the Philadelphia Eagles, Donnie. Who's the team for you?
You see that Vince Lombardi trophy that sits back here? That's a replica. And that's something that the Philadelphia Eagles have won as recent as 2017. The Buffalo Bills are notorious for making it to the Super Bowl and coming up lame, which they might be able to do. But my question is, can the Buffalo Bills even get to the Super Bowl?
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred, or just worked on the side, or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long.
You don't want them to go 13-0 and then lose the first round of the playoffs.
Red.
This is their last shot. They don't really have anywhere else to go here.
Hot take.
By the time I hit, I guess what, Route 33 up here, that ticket's cashing.
Only on SportsGrid. The holidays come with a touch of craziness, from unwrapping the latest storylines to the best betting insights. We've got everything you need to crank up the excitement this season. We can't promise there won't be a little yelling.
Play a decent schedule. They have maybe 500.
That just ruined my day.
But we can guarantee a whole lot of fun. Merry Christmas from all of us at SportsGrid.
All right, we're live with you right here on Pro Football Today. We're talking a little about everything surrounding Penix. I just want to throw this out there quickly because then we can break down the Falcons-Giants game a little bit more. Do you feel that there are going to be multiple teams outside of I'm making the Niners connection, but maybe they will just pay Brock? Do you think there's multiple teams out there ready to give Kirk a chance to be a starting quarterback?
I don't think there's that many. I mean, a lot of the teams are already solidified. I mean, Minnesota has J.J. McCarthy waiting in the wings, and what do they do?
They bring him back, like Minnesota, and just like he and J.J. can have fun getting healthy together because someone else paid Darnold?
We have to also look at the opposite side of it. Does Cousins want to play anymore? He's one of those guys that drives around the minivan, shops at Kohl's, where money doesn't matter, love my family. Like, what do I need to even do this for anymore? I'm going to go around making $1 million when I'm known for making $50 million a year to be a backup quarterback where I can't be the starter? That's the question I have. Does he actually want to do that?
He said he did. He said he has no problems. He feels 100%. He didn't forget how to play football, but that's easier said than done. Week 16 of the NFL versus the offseason.
It's very interesting. I'll add this last thing. One of the teams that made that little list of, they're going to be looking was Pittsburgh, which, I mean, it felt like 3 weeks ago Russ was going to get like a 5-year deal, and now all of a sudden.
Once he beats the Chiefs on Christmas, so get ready.
And all of a sudden now, if you're a Steeler fan, though, you got to tell Tomlin to cut it out. I don't care how good of a coach he is. You're not going from Russ to Kirk, man. You gotta stop doing this. You have to. Or just draft a kid at least, behind, a first-round real talent. All right, let's get into Falcons-Giants. The expectations for Penix. From the books end of it, kind of all system go, right? We got accustomed to rookie quarterbacks getting these 175.5s. Plus money to throw a touchdown pass. Mm-hmm. Looks way different, DRS, when you dive through the Penix props.
And also, we still have to take a look at it's not an injury situation where it's like, boy, Cousins was absolutely steamrolling. This offense was great. The Falcons were the number 1 overall seed in the NFC. This is a bad football team right now. Cased upon, let's just take a look at the last 5 games. Lost to New Orleans, lost to Denver, lost to the Chargers, lost to Minnesota, and most of those games getting blown out. And then a awful Vegas team not trying to win anything with half their team out. you were almost in a dogfight to end this game. So that's what I look at. Is Penix going to start his first career game against a team in the New York Giants that isn't very good? Let's understand that right off the bat. But are we just led to believe that this is a major upgrade enough where the defense and the offense plays where it's 24-plus points here and the defense rises to the occasion, Joe?
There might be growing pains. I just took a look at Michael Penix's attempts, 29.5. Which is a pretty high number for a rookie start with a game that they have to win, right? Now, I understand that the New York Giants allowed 290 to Lamar Jackson, and they got blown out. But is the M.O. Of that offensive staff going to be, let's let Michael Penix chuck it 30, 35 points? Well, then we should be on the attempts, 29.5. I like the under just because I think there's still the rushing attack. The rushing attack is your best friend for a rookie quarterback. If there is any type of situation to score first, you want to run the football, you want to take the pressure off of Penix, unless they just come out guns ablaze and grip it and rip it and allow him to be like he was in Washington, 40, 45 attempts a game, and we'll see first team to 40.
But by the way, this is going to come out interesting right now because if I were to say, like, they're in must-win mode.
Right.
But to be honest, Joe, I don't think the goal is for the Atlanta Falcons to beat the New York Giants. If that was the goal, you could have just ran Kirk Cousins out there and said, you know what, we're not going to pass that much to throw the short, simple routes. We're going to beat the Giants. The goal today is to actually get Michael Penix game-time experience, not saying, hey, don't want you to throw more than 20 times. We're going to beat the Giants because this isn't the game you're worried. If you lose, the season's done. You want to see the Atlanta Falcons as a team excel on offense with their young quarterback to get confidence for next week's game against the Commanders. So it does sound like, well, why is he saying it's not winning? Yes, winning is important. But even more important than that is how they win this football game.
That's why I like the under, 43.5. I do feel, again, there's going to be a time where if it's a close game, that they're going to run the football. I honestly believe that. And I agree with Donnie saying that obviously you want to get them ready. But here's the other point. They have two games head-to-head on Tampa Bay, right? Yeah. So, they have that inside track if they can get back into the playoff hunt and the division, right? So, at some point, they're going to try and win the game if it's close. I would take the points with the New York Giants. It's a close your eyes. Take the points with the Giants because you do have a rookie quarterback. I understand Giants have lost 10 straight, but over a touchdown, even though they're at home, expecting them to win by double digits, I just don't see it.
So the number that stood out to me, and I played a Penix prop, which is his longest completion over 35.5.
That's a good look.
One of the few numbers that actually Kirk was still able to mostly hit this year. Penix, in his one preseason, half, hit a 41-yard completion. We know I think I bet his longest completion prop against, Texas of, 49.5, which was an atrocious bet by me. But it gives you an idea of he was firing away always at UW. But the number I didn't bet that I was trying to figure out, I wanted to ask you this, Donnie, so I'm glad I remembered. Passing touchdowns is 1.5.
Yes.
Which it all, of course. Mm-hmm. But minus 102. What do you think that number would have been if it was Kirk Cousins? I think more if it was Kirk.
It would have been plus money.
You think so?
Yeah, I think it would have been plus
I thought it would have. I think Kirk would have been
against
minus
the Giants.
But last week was that one where, again, I only took him in a parlay to have one touchdown pass in that game, and he got it. But Kirk Cousins not throwing multiple touchdown passes for weeks and going up against a game he couldn't. You're supposed to be able to throw the football against the Giants, but I do still think it's a big-time Bijan day, which do I think Penix can throw two? I'd probably be more likely to say he throws one, and the running game, Algier and Bijan carry the flow.
See, now, I think if it was Kirk Cousins under center, I think they would be maybe a 10.5 point favorite just because of how bad the New York Giants are. And they've lost 10 straight. The fact that it's Penix and we have no sample size, but college, right? Minus 102, I would put the number, if it was Kirk there, probably minus 115, 120 to throw two touchdowns against the Giants secondary.
But what I would say is I think Penix is more likely than Kirk to throw two. Because I think now, listen, yes, first things first is win the game, but first thing second is make sure this kid looks good.
Yes.
Because Raheem Morris's job is tied to Michael Penix now. And I think that stuff is always super relevant. Penix joins a rookie class that's played a lot this year. Jaden Daniels is the favorite. He has a huge one against Philly. We'll talk about it next.
When you're not riding with Josh Allen, where have you gone? Don't tell me it's the Philadelphia Eagles, Donnie. Who's the team for you?
See that Vince Lombardi trophy that sits back here? That's a replica. And that's something that the Philadelphia Eagles have won as recent as 2017. The Buffalo Bills are notorious for making it to the Super Bowl and coming up lame, which they might be able to do. But my question is, can the Buffalo Bills even get to the Super Bowl?
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred or just worked on the side or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting at the hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
You don't want them to go 13-0 and then lose the first round of the playoffs.
Red.
This is their last shot. They don't really have anywhere else to go yet.
Hot take.
By the time I hit, I guess what, Route 33 up here, that ticket's cashing.
Only on SportsGrid. The holidays come with a touch of craziness, from unwrapping the latest storylines to the best betting insights. We've got everything you need to crank up the excitement this season. We can't promise there won't be a little yelling.
Play a decent schedule. They have maybe 500.
That just ruined my day.
But we can guarantee a whole lot of fun. Merry Christmas from all of us at SportsGrid.
All right, back with you right here. It's Pro Football Today. You could argue the best game on the board is in the NFC East. It's the Washington Commanders at home against the Philadelphia Eagles. Number moving a little bit towards Philly here. 3.5s are turning into 4s, and some 4.5s out there as well. People are realizing what I think at this point is actually really difficult to argue. The Eagles are the best team in the NFL.
They are. They've won 10 straight by 13.5 points per game, and they dominated the better competition like Baltimore. And last week against Pittsburgh, it was close in the second quarter, right, when they pulled by 7 points. Second half, they go on a 10-minute drive in the fourth quarter, allow Pittsburgh only 2 second-half possessions to dominate that game. That defense has stepped up time and time again. That was the early question mark in the first 4 games of the regular season. Not anymore. And we saw them take care of business against Jaden Daniels on that Thursday night. Even though Jaden Daniels in Washington is 9-5 overall, last week they struggled with a mediocre New Orleans team, win it 20-19. They're going to need a monumental effort out of Jaden Daniels today. Last week he threw for 226 and rushed for 66 yards. I think that number needs to be in the area of 250, 275 today with the rushing yardage as well. We'll see if he could do it. I still would take the points just because of the home dog, but my best bet, Donnie, is the over 46.5 today.
Yeah, and it's going to be buoyed by the Philadelphia Eagles because you want to we always like to use the terms running mate at this point. Both of these offenses are capable of scoring points, but you do have to look at the Commanders even the last 5 games. Yes, it's nice they have back-to-back wins. Against Tennessee, atrocious. Against New Orleans, atrocious. And look at the 3 previous games before that. Lost to the Cowboys, lost to the Eagles, and lost to the Steelers. Now, granted, this is a good football team. Washington is going to make the playoffs, but I tend to agree with the line movement. If you're saying it's around 3 all week long, now we're getting to game day at 4.5, because as Kevin's point is, the Eagles are the most well-rounded team in the NFL. It's like, oh, their offensive line. No, their offensive line is good. Their defensive line is good. Their linebackers are good. Their secondary is good. Their quarterback's good. You see what I mean? There's no weak points here. And also now you're getting coaching from Vic Fangio, where in the past where he was like, ooh, it's going to be a tough game. It's a mobile quarterback. They got good wide receivers. Show me this. Every single week over the past, I would say 5 to 6 weeks, Kevin, the number 1 defense in the NFL. Now they're widening that margin as we get later in December. So you look at the Washington squad and say to yourself, okay, how is their attack point going to be? Well, Terry McLaurin's a great wide receiver. Shut down completely last time they played. So who's going to be that guy that steps up? And it's not just going to be Brian Robinson running up the middle and saying, hey, I'm going to 3.5 carries. You're going to have big plays against the Eagles who don't give up big plays.
No, it's going to be tough for Washington, right? And to make this clear on Philadelphia's status, take the big four, which would be Philly, Detroit, Buffalo, Kansas City. You could break it down any way you want, right? Of 1 through 4, offense, defense, coaching staff, or you want to go specifics, quarterbacks, defensive line. There is not a single one where out of those 4, they rank last. Not a single one. And they're the only team that is true of. Because they don't have the worst quarterback. I'm not going to listen to that. I'm not going to listen to the world where Jared Goff is better than Jalen Hurts. It's not going to happen. They have the best defense by a country mile, and they have a megastar, superstar running back in Saquon Barkley who will step up in this game. We know that. But also, I'm the most unbiased man in the history of sports media. That requires me to do what I got to do, which is why I love the Commanders' team total over 20.5 in this game. Washington has only missed that 3 times this year, never in back-to-back games. They've scored 21-plus in 6 of 7 home games. They averaged just under 30 points per game at home this season. Philadelphia, again, the absolute best defense in this league. Giving up 21 points to a great offense is nothing to hang your head about here. I think this is going to be an explosive game. If Philly scores 28, I like my bet even more. That's a running mate. This, to me, is a spot where Jaden Daniels cannot play as bad as he did in that opening game. I think that he has a lot more to improve on than Philly's defense from that matchup. And Daniels, perhaps still nursing the ribs, hardly ran in that matchup. So Philly didn't get to diagnose what that looks like as much, an added element to help Washington's offense here.
And remember the last time they played, you and I spoke, and you thought that Kingsbury called a very conservative game plan, especially in the first half. They didn't allow Jaden Daniels to attack over the top. So I think it's different today. You can't just run Brian Robinson into the front 7. You're going to get shut down. You're going to be put into predictable third downs, and that's a recipe for disaster for that front 7. What you want to do is be more aggressive on first and second downs, move the football. Once you get inside the red zone, then you can utilize the rushing attack, and if you build a lead. But that's easier said than done. Love the Commanders total, but I love points as well in this
Real
matchup.
quick one, Brian Robinson Jr. on that 55.5 number. He's got to get that if the Washington wants to be competitive in this game. You cannot be one-dimensional against the Eagles. Keep an eye on him today.
All right, excited to watch that one play out. We do have some big games from the NFC North. We'll break those down next.
You're not riding with Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Where have you gone? Don't tell me it's the Philadelphia Eagles, Donnie. Who's the team for you?
You see that Vince Lombardi trophy that sits back here? That's a replica. And that's something that the Philadelphia Eagles have won as recent as 2017. The Buffalo Bills are notorious for making it to the Super Bowl and coming up lame, which they might be able to do. But my question is, can the Buffalo Bills even get to the Super Bowl?
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred or just worked on the side or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this bet than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long.
You don't want them to go 13-0 and then lose the first round of the playoffs.
Red.
Yeah, this is their last shot. They don't really have anywhere else to go yet.
Hot take.
By the time I hit, guess what, Route 33 up here, that ticket's cashing.
Only on SportsGrid. The holidays come with a touch of craziness, from unwrapping the latest storylines to the best betting insights. We've got everything you need to crank up the excitement this season. We can't promise there won't be a little yelling.
Play a decent schedule. They have maybe 500.
Oh, that just ruined my day.
But we can guarantee a whole lot of fun. Merry Christmas from all of us at SportsGrid.
Back right here on Pro Football Today. Talk about the Philadelphia Eagles and what I believe is the best team, certainly in the NFC. I believe they're the best team in football. The Detroit Lions held on to that claim for a long time for a lot of people, including that of odds makers. Not that long ago, this team was plus 250 to win a Super Bowl. They're double that now at 5-1. A loss to Buffalo and more injuries somehow have shifted this number on the Lions greatly. And I think maybe also being factored in is how close this team is all of a sudden being the 5th seed, which is pretty incredible, all things considered. They are still a touchdown favorite today against a reeling Chicago Bears team. Did the Bears pull off an upset?
I mean, it's possible, but highly unlikely. They've lost 8 straight by 11 points per game. On the flip side, you have a Detroit team that's 6-0 on the road this year and have won by an average margin of victory of 13 points per game. They made it look good against Buffalo, closing the gap 48-42 in the end. We saw St. Brown have a huge performance, a $197 receiving on 14 receptions. I think he breaks out again today. His number is 70.5. I don't think this game is lower scoring. I think, on the road, they look to put a pounding on Chicago. It's a 6.5-point number. I would lay it, Donnie, reluctantly, but I would jump on the over just because of how good that Detroit offense has been.
Yeah, if it gives you any pause, yes, it's a cold weather. It's a dome team going outdoors. Their defense is mangled, but at the same time, the Bears really aren't going anywhere at this point. And I don't know if Caleb Williams on a week-to-week basis is as focused as he needs to be, knowing I'm taking cues from a guy that's not going to be here next year, and I just hope to make it out alive, and guys go into self-preservation mode. But also keep in mind, we did see a little bit earlier in the year at the Packers, talking about Detroit, 24-14 win, not great weather conditions where they held up nicely, but that also was under a defense that had 4 or 5 extra guys there that were ready to get after the quarterback and stop the run, which aren't there now. So I agree with Kevin's premises. A couple weeks ago, and since early in September, I identified the Detroit Lions as the best overall team in the NFL, let alone the NFC, and bet them accordingly here. They're still at the top of the standings. If they run the table, which they can, they'll still be the number 1 overall seed, which means a lot. But if I'm asked right now, are they still the best team in the NFC right now? No, they're not. But they still have enough firepower to win this game, even if David Montgomery would have been a great compliment today to Jahmyr Gibbs outside in the cold weather, a little thump and bump on the inside. And now it's Jahmyr Gibbs' team. I'm interested to see, Kevin, how he takes the reins here. Are they just going to say, okay, well, now there's no more backfield split. You're 90-10 like we saw last year with the San Francisco 49ers, and Christian McCaffrey say, let our best player eat on a consistent basis? That's what I want to watch. I want to see if he can be that lead dog, 25-plus touches in a game, and still be able to dominate.
They're certainly expecting around that range. His rushing plus receiving number is the highest of any player on your Sunday slate, higher than that of Saquon Barkley. His anytime touchdown number,
ridiculous.
Is double that of Saquon Barkley as well. I actually, you get free bets all the time. Mm-hmm. I threw one on him 15-1 to lead the NFL in rushing touchdowns. He's currently at 11. The lead right now is Hurts at 14, and then Henry and James Cook, incredibly, have 13 at the moment. I think it's on the board that Gibbs could get in range. From the side of it all, if I can get past betting Chicago last week, I really should just be on the Bears. The big mistake I made last week in betting Chicago +7 at Minnesota was it wasn't just a road game where they've been useless. It was a 3rd straight road game, which is never easy for a team. The Bears at home are a much different team. Not just 4-3 straight up, but think back to when Chicago was covering every single game they played against the top of this division within their own building. The Packers and the Vikings in those close battles there. I would certainly lean towards the Bears. I just don't know if I feel like putting more money on the Chicago Bears ultimately after I had to sit through that Monday night.
I'm with you. I thought it was an intriguing line, and you're seeing 6.5s on FanDuel right now, which is probably going to get a little bit more maybe Detroit money into this matchup. But knowing about all the injuries, right, and knowing that they had an emotional game last week against potentially one of the better teams or best team trending in the AFC right now in Buffalo, is there a letdown? You have a beaten-down team right now that has lost 8 straight. Caleb Williams last week running for his life against that front 7. He looked like a deer in the headlights at some point. What are you going to get out of the offense of Chicago? Are they going to come out and run the football, or are they going to allow Caleb to chuck it all over the yard like we saw the last home game against Minnesota where he throws for 340 and 2 touchdowns. That's what I can't figure out from Thomas Brown. He's very inconsistent in regards to the play calling, and that's why I do lean to Detroit. Again, another game I'm not betting, though, Kev.
Yeah, also, when you're trying to take a look at, the game plan or thoughts, Joe, as you're alluding to at this point, just trying to get that updated weather look here. All right, 27 degrees, no precipitation, winds around 10 miles an hour. You'll take that every time at Soldier Field. But if you do think that they are going to be playing from behind, you do have your young rookie quarterback that you still want to get in rhythm. And we're not talking about high prices, Joe. 214.5 is his passing prop. If you say they win this football game, it's probably more buoyed on a ground attack and just Detroit maybe not playing so well. But Detroit's offense should be able to move the football against the Chicago Bears, which 214.5 isn't as much. If I'm even saying, can they keep it close to the Bears? I don't think they keep it close if he has 175 in the air today.
Yeah. No, think about last week, right? They pulled him with 191 in the fourth quarter on the last drive for Bajan. The one prop I did take, and it's very cheap, it's Cole Kmet. We've seen Cole Kmet priced 25, 26 in back-to-back multiple weeks. He's down to 20.5. Cold weather, short throws. I took a shot on Cole Kmet, 20.5 at minus 114 today. I think that's a good look. But to Donnie's point, 214 is doable for Caleb Williams. The problem is the last time they played on Thanksgiving, he basically had 20 yards in the first half. He didn't get that until the second half of that matchup.
Seahawks host Minnesota. They do so as a slight home dog. Geno exited the game against Green Bay on Sunday night. Looks like he'll be playing in this one, though, against the Vikings here, who control their own destiny for the number 1 seed, which is incredible to say. Donnie, you like anything in Seattle, Minnesota?
It's supposed to rain, so one of the few spots where we're looking at maybe weather will have an impact. Not really extremely cold, not really extremely windy, but as you know, in Seattle, you get the rain, and you say, how heavy is it going to rain? We learned a pretty good lesson on San Francisco and L.A. Hey, the rain will get out of there early, absolutely wreck the entire game plan. Having said that, Aaron Jones on the ground, anytime touchdown, I think makes a lot of sense to me because they will move the football, but I do think as that solo guy, if there's a little bit of rainy conditions, he's slippery enough to get in the end zone. That's the way I would look at this game, Joe.
I actually like Seattle here. This is a spot where I'm looking to take the 3.5 with Seattle. I understand that Minnesota has won 7 straight, but I think the Seahawks now get back to running the football. I don't think they can get into a shootout. That was clearly obvious with Green Bay last week. They gave up a ton of yards to the rushing attack and Josh Jacobs. They dictated the tempo. Josh Jacobs touched the football the first drive basically 8 times, and it was game on after that. So you want to shut down Aaron Jones. I think they can do that to some capacity and force the game back onto Darnold. And maybe we see this game play out lower scoring, and somehow, some way, because they are at home, wet conditions, Seattle pulls it out.
Yeah, I think the Vikings are a little bit of a different team when you talk about putting them on the road. People might say, whoa, 5-1 outright. Yeah. Cool. Not
very close wins, though.
Green Bay by 2, lost to the Rams by double digits, actually, which was only one of 2 losses, but it gives you an idea. The Titans was only by 10. The Jaguars was a disgusting display. The Bears was just by 3, to your point, Joe. So I look at Minnesota where, for Detroit, falling to the 5 is just like, how did this happen, right? For Minnesota, being the 5 is worrisome. Your opening round matchup at the moment will project actually to be L.A. You've already gone there. You've already played there. You already lost there, right? So you kind of get an idea that the Vikings will be dogs in that game. Like, that's the difference. Would you guys agree with that? The Rams would not a huge favorite, but the Rams would be favored over Minnesota in round 1 in L.A.?
By 3.
I think they would be, yeah.
Yeah, by 3 maybe.
So the difference for Minnesota, right, is you get a bye and the playoffs run through your stadium, or you're a round 1 dog.
Yeah.
Like Detroit would still actually, I think, be favored, but time will certainly tell. Party over. Let's find some points out there on the Sunday slate. Oh, is it 20? That can't be right.
Wow.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, whoa.
Wow.
Hold on. Let me check.
Wow.
Tick.
Wow.
Want to squeeze another game in?
Run it out.
Yeah,
Lisi,
what do you got?
Take over.
What do you got?
Take over.
All right, we'll get to the rest of the Sunday slate next right here on Sports Grid.
and you're not riding with Josh Allen, where have you gone? And don't tell me it's a Philadelphia Eagles, Donnie. Who's the team for you?
You see that Vince Lombardi trophy that sits back here? That's a replica. And that's something that the Philadelphia Eagles have won as recent as 2017. The Buffalo Bills are notorious for making it to the Super Bowl and coming up lame, which they might be able to do. But my question is, can the Buffalo Bills even get to the Super Bowl?
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred or just worked on the side or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long.
You don't want them to go 13-0 and then lose the first round of the playoffs.
Red.
Yeah, this is their last shot. They don't really have anywhere else to go yet.
Hot take.
By the time I hit, I guess what, Route 33 up here, that ticket's cashing.
Only on SportsGrid. The holidays come with a touch of craziness, from unwrapping the latest storylines to the best betting insights. We've got everything you need to crank up the excitement this season. We can't promise there won't be a little yelling.
Play a decent schedule. They have maybe 500.
Oh, that just ruined my day.
But we can guarantee a whole lot of fun. Merry Christmas from all of us at SportsGrid.
All right, back right here on SportsGrid. Kevin Walsh, Donnie Rightside, and Joe Lisi. Let's see if we can hunt some points here. I'm going to wrap in some of those wild card games for the fellas as well that we didn't get to talk about together. Lisi, Cincinnati, Cleveland. Every Bengals game has points.
Yeah, not today. I think it's a lower scoring game today. Am I crazy to think that? I know Cincinnati beat up on Tennessee, but Tennessee's defense is nowhere near the Cleveland Browns. I still think the Browns' defense can bring it. I think they can run the football with Jerome Ford. DTR making his first start of the regular season. I think it's an under. They might win, but I'll just say this. I like Cleveland plus the points today. I think they run it all over them.
It's interesting to see how Jerry Jeudy's going to react from a quarterback change where he was getting the football every single play to now not so much at this point. And also, that line opened up at 5.5, now showing at 10s at most outlets at this point is kind of wild because, again, we just spend most of the time lambasting that horrible defense for the Cincinnati Bengals. But if we are looking at 49.5 now down to 46.5, I mean, come on now. How do you take an under in a Cincinnati game, though, to be honest?
Yeah, to me, though, I think that means you're expecting Cincinnati to run here. I have no issue with the big number. I considered laying it myself.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a team now whose last two victories are by 7 on the road and by 10 on the road. At home, huge quarterback. I think a huge quarterback downgrade as well. Do not get confused. Jameis Winston was benched because of turnovers. Mm-hmm. He is still much better than DTR.
Yes.
What about Indianapolis and Tennessee? This game has Tell Me Something written all over it, Lisi, but could you see points?
Yes, and the reason why I say that is I expect Indianapolis, I like them on the side, 3.5, 4-point favorites at home to abuse Tennessee based off that performance last week where Jonathan Taylor was running wild, fumbles the football at the goal line. They get outscored by 24 points between the second quarter and the second half, and they lose it by margin and don't even cover. I expect them to be mad. Mason Rudolph makes the start. I think they run it. They throw it all over Tennessee. I like Indy, but I love the over today.
Yeah, Tennessee's last couple of games on the road, 34 points given up to the Buffalo Bills, 52 points given up to the Lions. The Chargers given up 27 points. The Texans, they gave up 27 points. And the Commanders, they gave up 42 points. If you are Anthony Richardson today, it's a day to get back on track. I do think multiple touchdowns here on the ground, probably a legitimate chance with Jonathan Taylor and also Anthony Richardson inside the one. That's the tough part about it. Like every single week, you should look at at Jonathan Taylor and say, that's a touchdown. And just say if you're out driving around like I am typically and you say, oh, 1st and goal at the 1. It's usually like, yeah, I'm getting mine. Like, oh, no. Like, right. I don't actually know who's going to get the football on the goal line.
You know what that becomes? A tough drive home.
Drive off the road, maybe? I didn't go my way. See ya. Take a quick left.
For the first time, the Sunday Nighter appears in the Party Over section.
Hey.
Cowboys, Bucks.
Hey.
Party under, little zag. Everybody thinks all the Bucks games go boom, boom, boom. But perhaps we could see the turnovers from these quarterbacks help an under get home. And ultimately, remember, this is still a Dallas team that people didn't think would be able to score going to Carolina last week, which was insane. But I'm not sure that means that now back home they get to score on the Bucs.
No, I'm with you, Kev. I like to lean to the under 48.5. Couple of reasons why. Again, you look at Buccaneers right now. They dominate a couple weeks ago against L.A. What do? It was the second half with Bucky Irvin. The difference with Tampa Bay's offense this year, 138 rushing yards per game compared to last year with 89 yards on the ground. So a significant upgrade with Rashad White and Bucky Irvin. I think on the road they look to run the football as well, stay in manageable third downs. But the other factor as well is Dallas playing much better. You know who has the most rushing yards, I believe, right behind one of the leaders? It's Rico Dowdle. So if Rico Dowdle and that rushing attack are running the football consistently, that churns clock. They don't have to utilize Cooper Rush. So, again, 48.5 I think is too high. Now, we get the game into the mid-30s, Donnie, and from an in-game perspective, that'd be an area I'd jump in.
Yeah, it's a matter of what the Cowboys want to do on offense, as Joe points out. If you're going to say, let's be more measured here, let's stick in the game longer, it's more Rico Dowdle, more short passing, but you do have the ability to go higher. It's just a matter of Cooper Rush. We've seen him play not so well, and then also against Carolina, who's not a good defense, thread the needle on a couple touchdown passes, looked really good, but also from Tampa Bay side, no Cade Otton in this game, which I do think means an extra wide receiver can step up. A couple weeks ago, I told you about Sterling Shepard going over an ultra-low number, which he did in that game. I'm actually liking Jalen McMillan today. So wide receivers there stepping up for injured wide receivers and younger wide receivers in Tampa Bay, I think have a big factor today.
All right, we'll see how that then plays out. What about Rams, Jets? I ear to the ground. I've heard some thought this could be best bet material.
It was best bet material. It was on the board. You saw Aaron Rodgers and you saw Devontae Adams over the past couple of weeks get back to their days in Green Bay, and it hasn't stopped, right? They put up 26 against the New York Jets, 32 last week against Jacksonville. They come home. I understand it's cold weather, but with Matt Stafford and that passing attack as well, I think they're going to have to score 20, 24 points to win that ball game. That could mean game on. We could see this game into the 50s, Donnie.
No, you certainly can. I do. Look, it's the Christmas season now, right? Everybody's getting presents out here. You're happy with it. There's people out there that are going to buy their significant other fool's gold, some cubic zirconias. Hey, babe, picked up the diamonds. Here's a great wrist. And then you'll wash, you'll off in about 2 weeks. It starts to turn green on your wrist. That's what you're getting right now out of the New York Jets. But it's going to continue. Like, the last couple games have really woken up on offense because guys have gotten healthier, guys have gotten used to it, but also there's no more pressure on the Jets. You know what the pressure is now? Saying, how can I get Brick Johnson, the son of Woody Johnson, to believe me that I'm a good football player enough to keep me around next year, which I do think happens again today. It's a cold atmosphere, but it's cold. What do you want to do? Aaron Rodgers didn't play all those years in Green Bay. Oh, their wide receivers, Garrett Wilson played at Ohio State, and then also Devontae played with him out in Green Bay. I think we get points today, I do.
All right, now let's get to the Chasing Your Tail special, a.k.a. the Carolina Panthers. Panthers are bad. Cover machine. Panthers are favorite. Oh, my God, they're going to crush Dallas. That was insane. They laid a full field goal. They laid a full field goal. And now they're a 5.5-point home dog. I love Carolina catching the points.
Oh, you might. I mean, the line is a little fishy, but Arizona needs the game. I'll just say the 47.5 to me from the over perspective in play, fighting for their playoff lives. I think they put up points today.
I'm telling you, I'm interested in this one because Kyler Murray already is talking about, how cold? It's 35. Oof, man. I'm like, that's not a good sign coming in. And by the way, Trey McBride, finally today.
Thanks,
Pater.
All right.
Finally.
Welcome to Narrative Side here on Narrative Grid. Oh.
When you're not riding with Josh Allen, where have you gone? Don't tell me it's your Philadelphia Eagles, Donnie. Who's the team for you?
You see that Vince Lombardi trophy that sits back here? That's a replica. And that's something that the Philadelphia Eagles have won as recent as 2017. The Buffalo Bills are notorious for making it to the Super Bowl and coming up lame, which they might be able to do. But my question is, can the Buffalo Bills even get to the Super Bowl?
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred, or just worked on the side, or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in the set than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all people.
You don't want them to go 13-0 and then lose the first round of the playoffs.
Red.
Yeah, this is their last shot. They don't really have anywhere else to go yet.
Hot take.
By the time I hit, guess what, Route 33 up here, that ticket's cashed.
Only on SportsGrid. The holidays come with a touch of craziness, from unwrapping the latest storylines to the best betting insights. We've got everything you need to crank up the excitement this season. We can't promise there won't be a little yelling.
Play a decent schedule. They have maybe 500.
They just ruined my day.
But we can guarantee a whole lot of fun. Merry Christmas from all of us at SportsGrid.
Sharpest football contest show. The Las Vegas Football Contest Show focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
Uncle Stevie can just walk up the aisle like he's at the supermarket. I'll get a starting pitcher here, I'll get a closer here, I'll get a first baseman here, and he'll just keep throwing things in the cart because there is no limit.
Now he's gone, so they got to go get arms to make that team better. Because the bottom line was they were just outclassed by the Dodgers. Let's face it, they got their ass beat.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
I'm actually not even on a side today.
Yeah.
And I'll get to that. Why are you on Texas?
I gave them a chance. Maybe not me as the overwhelming authority in college football, but entering that game on this set to you guys, I said there was one elite defense entering the matchup in Austin back to end out October. It's not the Bulldogs like it used to be. It is Texas.
College football today, only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every...
All right, sometimes you wake up and you go, man, I'm running a little behind, but it's important to eat breakfast. It's the most important meal of the day. I'm a bagel deep already. So what do you say we got a little Sunday morning crunch, Lisi.
Yeah, so let's start it off. Jerome Ford over the 51.5 today.
Okay.
I like Jerome Ford in regards to the matchup. I think it's an under game running the football. He did rush for 86 yards last week. I think he has a breakout performance over the 51.5. Marvin Harrison, limited over the past few weeks, 49.5. Must-win game on the road, cold weather. I think he could blow through that. 60, 70-plus alt. And then Devontae Adams, the consistent pro, to Donnie's point, putting up numbers, got the big breakout performance, multiple touchdowns last week, expected to continue against the suspect Rams secondary today.
Sensible, all three there. So, Joe, I'm going to go ahead and say, you know what? How about this? Guys playing for their next contract and their next team. Head coach is trying to hang on. Jacksonville, the focal point here of my crunch today. How about this one? Take a look at Mac Jones, over 206.5 yards today. I think he goes over it. Why? Last three games, 235, 220, and 294. And also, what Kirk Cousins couldn't do last week, going up against the worst secondary in football in a dome situation, I'm going over, which means somebody's going to have to catch that football. And Brian Thomas Jr. has been nothing short of absolutely sensational. In the last 4 games combined, 43 total targets. Look at this receiving, 82, 76, 86, and 105 will be the focal point there. And then finally, let's take a look at Jalen McMillan, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, over 37.5, coming into his own. Take a look at his last 2 games, 75 and 59 consecutively, 13 total targets. And how about this? A combined 3 touchdowns over the past 2 weeks. We're crunching hard today, baby.
Smart, sensible, and fashionable as well.
Nice.
I've been sticking with the quarterbacks in the crunch, so let's stick quarterbacks, shall we?
Wow.
Josh Allen, no interception, minus 114. This number is outrageous. Josh Allen has only been picked in 4 games. On average, threw the ball 37.5 times per game in those matchups. Only slated to throw it 30.5 today against New England, who's hardly picked off quarterbacks this season. I think Josh continues to protect it. An interception pick, that's crazy. Let's get another one on the board. Tua to not throw an interception, minus 114. He's thrown 7 picks this year, Donnie. Only 3 games. He has 2 3-interception games. We got a bounce-back spot now for Tua to protect the rock. I actually think it means he'll stay a little bit more conservative and safer in his throws because of last week's disaster. The Niners have failed to intercept a quarterback in 4 straight games. And then we get Michael Penix's longest completion, over 35.5 as the Falcons begin the Penix era in Atlanta. Got Adam Kaplan to tell us a little bit more about that next.
And you're not riding with Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Where have you gone? Don't tell me it's the Philadelphia Eagles, Donnie. Who's the team for you?
See that Vince Lombardi trophy that sits back here? That's a replica. And that's something that the Philadelphia Eagles have won as recent as 2017. The Buffalo Bills are notorious for making it to the Super Bowl and coming up lame, which they might be able to do. But my question is, can the Buffalo Bills even get to the Super Bowl?
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred or just worked on the side or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long.
You don't want them to go 13-0 and then lose the first round of the playoffs.
Red.
This is their last shot. They don't really have anywhere else to go yet.
Hot take.
By the time I hit, guess what, Route 33 up here, that ticket's cashing.
Only on SportsGrid. The holidays come with a touch of craziness, from unwrapping the latest storylines to the best betting insights. We've got everything you need to crank up the excitement this season. We can't promise there won't be a little yelling.
Play a decent schedule. They have maybe 500.
Oh, they just ruined my day.
But we can guarantee a whole lot of fun. Merry Christmas.